You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. This next story is about the internet and our country's political polarization. It's also a story about our thirst for answers and the race to score ideological points following a tragedy. And frankly, the race to find a villain that fits your narrative, your political narrative following a tragedy. There's a rush to blame and then to explain, and this creates an environment where totally innocent people are run over by a runaway train of internet speculation, viral misinformation, and prejudice. And that's what happened to one Seattleite just a few days ago. She's a paralegal, she's a trans woman, and last week, to a portion of the internet, her photo became the face of the shooter who assassinated Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Her image went viral in right-wing social media circles along with threatening anti-trans rhetoric. Obviously, all of this was a lie, but the situation had very true consequences for her life. Michaela is here with me now in studio to share her story, and we are only using her first name because of concerns about continued harassment. Michaela, welcome to Soundside and welcome to KUOW. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So can you tell me the moment that you realized something was wrong and you started to get threatening or scary messages online?
Yeah, it began in the afternoon on September 10th. It was around, I want to say 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'm locked out of my Twitter account, so I can't tweet, but I start getting inundated with direct messages. And at first, it's people warning me, saying, hey, I recognized you. I see this picture getting circulated around. People are claiming that you made threatening tweets about Charlie Kirk. Within 30 minutes to an hour of that, then these people found my account, not just my photo, and now I'm beginning to get tagged in a bunch of conspiracies that I have something to do with Charlie Kirk's murder.
And just to capture a bit of what you were reading, I mean, what was the language that you were being inundated with?
People saying that they're going to find me and they're going to kill me. Those were the scariest ones, were the death threats. And then just in general, transphobia. If somebody wasn't threatening to kill me, then they were just making comments about my appearance or telling me to kill myself. I did get quite a few of those where I guess people realized that I didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm a trans woman. So they all, made sure that they got that in.
So at this point, we're going to get to the pretty convoluted way that you got caught up in this. But at this point, when you're starting to receive these messages, what is your reaction? I mean, how are you dealing with that?
So when it first starts coming in, at this time, they had the second suspect in custody who was eventually released. But at the time, he was in custody. And so my first reaction was, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this is happening. This is all going to blow over in a couple of hours once they announce that they've arrested the person and people realize that this isn't me. Once they released the suspect, then the gravity of the situation started to set in that at least according to the internet, I mean, there is a large swath of people who see my face and think that I murdered Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. So at that point, what do you do?
That was a great question. I sat with that for a long time because I didn't know what to do. I was currently suspended on Twitter for something unrelated. I had gotten suspended the day before the assassination, so I wasn't able to use the very clear account to be able to let people know that, hey, this isn't me. I haven't been arrested. I have no connection. I started posting to my Instagram, which is linked in the bio of my Twitter account. And I guess I naively thought that, okay, well, there's a bunch of people who are trying to do a deep dive on me and do some investigation. Obviously, they would click the link that's in my profile and try to check on my other social media accounts. And that was not the case. Not many people went to that profile to see what was going on. I messaged other friends' posts trying to get them reported and community noted. Some of the posts have been community noted. None of the posts I reported have been taken down.
And for folks who aren't on X or Twitter, What does community noted mean?
Community Notes, it's a program where users are allowed to add context to a tweet that might have misinformation. The community then upvotes or downvotes that context to see whether it'd be helpful to readers. So a couple of these tweets now have a little information box below them to let people know that I'm not associated with it in any way. But these creators who, X pays creators who are premium subscribers for their content on the platform. So many right-wing creators are still profiting off of spreading this lie that I have something to do with the shooting.
I want to get into what happened here, why somebody completely unrelated to this situation at Utah Valley University, to the murder, would be suddenly caught up in this. But it kind of involves a convoluted set of circumstances that is very specific to Twitter and to some tweets that happened. And so let's kind of get into it here. And I know you're going to help me walk through this with people. Basically, the reason your image was circulated had to do with these strangely ominous couple of messages they were posted before Charlie Kirk appeared. And this was by a user named Omar, who said their name was Omar. We actually don't know who this user was. They said they were a student at Utah Valley University, but we don't know because this person has not been identified. This user, completely unrelated to you don't know who this is, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah. This user posted ahead of the Charlie Kirk appearance, "I really hope somebody evaporates him literally," and saying something big will happen tomorrow. Then after Charlie Kirk was killed, the user disappeared. They deleted their account. And that left people digging up these tweets and trying to identify who this Omar, quote unquote, was.
Yes.
So then how do you then get associated with Omar, a person you don't know at all and are not connected to at all?
The day before the shooting, I had a series of tweets go viral. The subject matter was Dr. Pepper. It had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. It was a bunch of stupid jokes. Omar retweeted one of these tweets. The way that Google Images works is that if you Google somebody's Twitter handle, if the last thing that person posted is not a tweet, but rather it's a retweet from somebody else, Google Images indexes the profile photo of the person that they retweeted. This resulted in somebody screenshotting what they saw on Google Images, which is my profile photo for my Twitter account, and Omar's username below it. That starts getting spread like wildfire. Omar, just as you mentioned, panics. At first, this person changes their handle to something else. People find that account and then are continuing to inundate them with threats. So that person just deletes their account entirely, which leaves people believing that I am Omar, who has changed their username, and this screenshot showing my profile photo, that this is a remnant that's left over, that, I made a mistake while I was doing it and have somehow now been caught.
Yeah, like this person has been, trying to cover their tracks, but these internet sleuths, they found Omar, and Omar is a completely unrelated woman living in Seattle.
Yeah, and the thing too, and I saw this being done in the comments, is there were a couple great people who were defending me and trying to prove that this wasn't true. People archived both mine and Omar's Twitter pages to see, the day before on 9/9 what they looked like. And so it's very easy to verify that I didn't make these tweets, and that also my account has been my current username since it was created last year.
Yeah. The other thing that happens, so that you get associated with Omar incorrectly, then there's some Photoshop involved. Then people start taking basically an image of a meme that Omar had posted, removing that, putting your picture in. Is that right?
That's correct. People started combining the two images where they would take a screenshot of these two tweets that Omar had made with his different profile photo, and then just sticking my picture directly next to the tweets, claiming that they were made by myself.
Because they were so sure that they had found Omar, who, by the way, we have no idea who Omar is or if they're associated, at all with the suspect who is now in custody. Likely not, but we don't know. But they were so sure that you, a completely unrelated person, was Omar, that they were going to do this photoshopping job and then, prove that, oh, hey, it was actually this trans woman who was the shooter. And I mean, we can't escape the political context here, which is that your image goes viral in the context of right-wing people making incorrect claims about trans people, and trans women especially, being violent or being dangerous. Talk to me about that context that's part of all of this.
It was very clear to me from the moment that Charlie got shot that the right wanted this to be a trans woman. That's why my picture spread like wildfire. That's why everyone was so quick to jump on it, because we've been demonized. There is a concerted effort by the right wing in this country to associate trans people with the moral decay of our society and blame us for the decline of America. And it's because people's material conditions here are not good. Things are expensive, nobody can afford anything, unemployment is high, and the right needs to prop up a boogeyman as to why things are going wrong with this country. It was immigrants during the right when this administration started. They have lost a lot of these court battles, and so they're moving on to the next target. And we're an easy target. It's very easy to demonize us to people who most likely, most of them have never met a trans woman in their entire life. So yeah, it's I believe that it is a concerted effort to paint us as violent because the right needs a boogeyman to blame the country's problems on.
This is Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman, and I'm sitting down with Michaela, who is a paralegal and a trans woman who lives in Seattle. And last week, she was incorrectly identified as the assassin who killed Charlie Kirk by online sleuths, who then shared her picture, and there was a wave of harassment and death threats that came in because of that. Michaela, just for people to understand what this meant for you, how scary did the messages get that you were receiving? You don't have to repeat them verbatim, but just to give people a slice of what it was like to be you at this point when your image is going viral and you're being called the shooter.
If you go between direct messages and comments that were made about me on people's posts, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, through all of them, it starts to get into the thousands. And there were, it's hundreds of messages of people saying that they want to find me and kill me. There's one that I remembered where somebody left a comment on my Instagram where I'm explaining everything that has happened and proving that I'm not the shooter. They leave a comment saying that, first they tag the FBI as if they're about to give the FBI some information they don't already know. And they said that if, the FBI doesn't get me, then we can't let another one get away and we have to take this into our own hands. And so, even with this starting to get cleared up, there's still some people that, despite being shown articles, they'll still, they say, oh, well, there's some connection there. I'm always in some way, for some people, going to be associated with this murder. I think about Alex Jones and the Sandy Hook families, and about the accusations of those families being crisis actors that led to them being harassed for years. And so my worry at this point now is that, so this Omar person has disappeared. These were fairly cryptic tweets. I can see how they would be taken in a conspiratorial context.
Yeah, somebody posting basically you wanted somebody, this person posted, I want Charlie Kirk to be vaporized and something is going to happen tomorrow. And then something did happen. So you can see how people were drawn into that. However, completely incorrectly making the connection with you. But continue that you were on a train of thought about how there is an inescapability. Once you're connected to something, you can't escape it.
Yeah. Well, and I believe that that's partially just kind of due to the era that we live in. I was just thinking about it as I was linking people a fact check article from the Associated Free Press. I just thought about it that, well, a lot of these people, that doesn't matter to them. Getting a fact checked from the Associated Press, that's the legacy media. They're in on the whole thing. So, yeah, this is permanent. There are always going to be people who thought I had something to do with this.
Have you reached out to the FBI? Have you reached out to law enforcement? And what have you heard?
On the morning of September 11th, When these messages didn't stop, at that point I called my parents, who are back home, and tried to ask what I should do. My mom recommended that I call the Seattle FBI field office. Very quickly into telling them what happened, they just transferred me over to the national tip line. I left my information to tell them what was going on, and they said if anyone had questions, they would come and talk to me. Nobody has reached back out. And then as far as local law enforcement goes, I don't know. It's very common for trans women to get death threats. We really can't go to the police every time it happens.
Yeah. There was a few people. You mentioned 2 people who were taken into custody immediately and then later released who were connected to the shooting incorrectly initially. There was also a man that the CBC interviewed who's a banker in Toronto who was incorrectly connected to the shooter, a 77-year-old banker in Toronto who got incorrectly, called the shooter. I mean, basically, this seems to be an increasingly common thing that happens in the wake of an attack where people are incorrectly identified as murderers or as really serious criminals. And then they are left with the aftermath, which is what you're talking about here. I mean, what would you like to see, basically? Is there anything that could make this better for you?
That's a tough question because I think that this is almost an inevitability of the way that the internet works and the speed at which information travels now, that, my face wasn't reported on CNN or Fox News or any major media station because, those platforms are actually concerned about getting sued for defamation and things like that. It's unfortunate that my picture got spread like this, but I really don't know a way to combat it that doesn't mean like a very overreaching or curtailing freedom of speech on the internet. So I think it's a difficult question. And really, in order to solve it, it's the change that needs to happen at the personal level. It's people needing to realize that you're not going to figure this out. You, from your computer at home, you don't know more than the FBI does. There was a second woman, I believe her name was Sky. Before they arrested Tyler, this photo of Sky started circulating around that day. And so it's just, you guys got it all wrong. Literally, none of you identified Tyler. None of you found him. The only people that you identified all had nothing to do with it. So, what are we doing? I guess I don't understand this... These people who are trying to be like citizen investigators who wouldn't click a link in my profile to do any sort of follow-up. So I'm just wondering what we're doing here. If we're going to investigate it, why, what is the point of what we're doing? Sorry, This is a very convoluted answer.
No, I'm hearing what you're saying. It's really frustrating, the groupthink, and then the desire to fill a void of information and fill the void of information with a storyline that fits your priors, that fits your worldview and your political ideology so that you can score some points. Mm-hmm. And then that leads people to just make these leaps without even doing the basic due diligence of clicking through a link. We've seen that obviously with misinformation for a long time, but when you're actually in the middle, you're caught in it. It must just feel, where is your heart at right now? How are you doing? We've talked a little bit, had the interview, but you're not really eating much right now. There's a lot of anxiety, obviously. How are you doing?
I'm stressed. I think, this story kind of speaks to things on a national level because I was targeted through the internet and, this is across the entire country. But, there's a very large rising anti-trans sentiment in this country, both online and locally. A friend of mine who was recently interviewed by The Stranger, I believe that article is going to be coming out sometime this week. 2 weeks ago, she was hunted by a group of 6 to 8 teenage boys who were out looking for trans women on Tuesday nights in Capitol Hill. There's a couple of karaoke nights, and trans women are usually out at a couple, specifically 2 bars. And these boys were hanging, waiting for trans women to leave, walking alone. my friend and two of her friends, they were trying to de-escalate a situation with another girl they were following, and they were all jumped and beaten. She has a concussion, potentially permanent brain damage. And, I moved to Capitol Hill from the South to be safe. This was supposed to be a safe place for me. And now it's almost like we've made it easy for us to target people. We've all grouped ourselves up together, and people know where to go if you want to find trans women to harass. And so...
You mean by finding community, you also made yourselves more vulnerable?
Yeah, and it seems to be a recent thing. I think that, the rhetoric that's coming out of the right about us right now is just emboldening people to really feel justified in actual violence against us. And I think people need to really realize that that's where rhetoric leads. I'm from a southern state. The reactions among my new friends here in Washington and my friends in Texas between Charlie Kirk's death have been, staunchly different. And so with my friends in Texas, I've tried to communicate that point to them too, that, this rhetoric has real world consequences. And you might not, if you live in a bubble or whatever, and you might not think it does, you might think it's just words, but that affects what people feel justified in doing. If you truly believe that this country is going to hell because of trans people, that we are ruining the country, that we are the source of evil, of moral rot, that gives you, the moral ground to do anything you want to us because you're saving the soul of the nation. The rhetoric against us is putting a target on our backs, and the fact that we have kind of self-segregated into communities that were originally supposed to make us safer has in turn just kind of let people know where to find us.
You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman, and I'm here with Michaela. She's a trans woman here in Seattle who last week was accused online of killing Charlie Kirk. She did not do that. She was nowhere near Utah Valley University last week. She's a completely innocent person, but that did not stop people in right-wing circles from sharing her image, harassing her, and threatening her life. And we are only using Michaela's first name to prevent further harassment and safety issues. By the way, we first saw Michaela's story reported by Christopher Wiggins at The Advocate. I was just going through some of the postings that got the most interaction online that incorrectly identified you as the shooter. And one of them is from George Papadopoulos, a person who served time in federal prison and was pardoned by President Trump. And these postings are still up. They have the community note underneath, but there is still a message that says breaking shooter identified ? And then it connects you to this, ominous tweet by Omar, and it has your image. You said already that this is going to be a permanent thing for you, that in some people's mind, you're always going to be connected. Are there changes that you feel like you have to make in your life, being less publicly online or in your everyday physical world life that you feel like you have to do to be safe?
I'm not really going to change much about how I live. If something were to happen to me, there's really not much control that I have over that. If somebody wants to find out, where I live and, come here to hurt me, I'm never going to see it coming. I'm not going to know who it is. It could be any person that I see on the street. So I'm not really going to change much how I'm living. And then also in terms of not posting as much publicly, like you mentioned that post is still up. It doesn't seem like I'm going to get any of these taken down. I've reported all of these to Twitter, who reviewed my report, told me that the tweet would stay up. I sent a follow-up saying,
what's the justification that X or Twitter gives?
It just said that we did not find that this tweet violated our rules. And I tried to do a follow-up in the reply to say, this is spreading my image, saying that I'm a murderer and very much threatens my actual safety. And it's a proven lie. There's it's not that this is, some gray area, room for debate that, maybe one source says something or something says the other. Like, this is 100% verifiable through archive links, and it's still being pushed. And so, I mean, at that point, I believe that, borders on defamation, but that's not what I want to do with my life. I don't want to spend the next, 5 years in defamation lawsuits. And at that point, this story will come and go and everyone will forget about it. But, I'll still have to deal with it.
What would you like people to walk away from hearing your voice and in their interactions in the future with social media, in their interactions with the news? If you can impart just one message to folks, what would it be?
Just to wait. And
why do you think it's so hard for us to do that? Because it is like there is this insatiability of filling an information void that we all play into. Like, sorry, go ahead. What lesson would you like people to take?
No, I mean, that's a really good question. I was kind of, I was just trying to ponder it a little bit more because, I mean, in terms of how do we fix the problem of us wanting immediate answers and
do we just turn off the internet? Literally, I'm asking that. Like, I mean, would we all be better?
Well, I mean, that's a joke, but I think that you are kind of correct in the sense of, I don't know what solution there is other than not having the internet, which isn't a solution. I think it's,
It's like the Village Square mentality of everyone gossiping about their neighbor and filling in information. But our brains are not set up to have our neighbor supposedly be the entire globe and have these pieces of gossip travel across the globe in a matter of an eye blink.
And this might be a little pessimistic, but just saying, like, what do I want people to take away from this? I feel like almost anybody that's listening to this interview isn't somebody that needs to get this message. All of the people that spread my image far and wide, I mean, it's mostly right-wing circles. And I mean, I don't, some people have apologized. It's, it is a small fraction of the people that said hateful and vitriolic things to me. But I really don't know how to fix it because I think when the next one happens, they'll just do it again. And I don't know what the solution is for that. I don't know if there is one.
Michaela, I thank you so much for taking time to come in to have this conversation, especially when you're trying to clear your name in all of these different venues and all of these different ways. And I just sense from you like a total awareness of the way these political narratives are spun. And also, I don't know if it's fair to say just a little sense of hopelessness in where we're at. But I do think that when we all talk about this together, even if it is within the bubble of NPR in Seattle,
yes,
I do think that there is like a connection that's made and a community that's made that is important. And so I thank you very much for being, able to share this with us and help people understand what happened.
Yeah. And on that note, like I joke about, probably not a ton of right-wing people, listening to NPR Seattle. But that is why I wanted to come on here today, because it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get these posts removed. So my only option here is to try and speak about this experience and, let people know what this has done to me. And then also to highlight that this is part of a growing and concerted effort to take away the rights of trans people in this country. Before Charlie Kirk was killed, and I don't believe you asked about it, but I'll go ahead and say it. I unequivocally condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Political assassinations have no place in a functioning society, and that's not because I think Charlie was a good person or I liked him. It's because once you decide that it's more expedient to kill your political opponents than to work through the ballot box, we no longer have a country. We no longer have a political system, if that's true. And if you're allowed to kill Charlie Kirk, if you think that I killed him, then you're allowed to kill me too, and I don't want to live in that world. But just as early as 2 weeks ago, Charlie Kirk was pushing for a bill to remove the rights of trans people to own firearms. The Trump administration has made it difficult, if not impossible, to get a passport if you've gotten your gender marker changed and it's something different than what's on your birth certificate. I just want people to just take a moment to ask themselves historically, what happens to people when you take away their ability to leave a country and then you start trying to disarm them? What usually happens to them? What's the plan for them? So I just want people to think about it, that like that's what we're all worried about, that we might not even be able to leave if things get bad. So I just hope people have some empathy about it.
I think that you're really brave, and that I can see that you're getting emotional, and folks can understand, having heard what you've been through, why you feel this way. And I just really thank you for sharing this. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you think we should?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I appreciate you so much letting me come and share my story, and I just hope that it resonates with some people.
Thank you, Michaela, who is a Seattleite. She is a paralegal. She's a trans woman, and she is an innocent woman, despite what you still see on X and certain social media sites. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman, and I want to hear from you about what you heard from Michaela. What do you think about her situation? Have you seen something like this happen in your own life? Have you been the victim of misinformation online? What do you think is the solution here? Is it about holding platforms accountable, X and others, that allow this stuff to stay up? Is it leadership, top down, enabling this kind of rhetoric and this kind of demonization that's going on? Is it the media? What's driving this toxicity in our information spaces, and what are the solutions? And, more broadly about the Kirk assassination in general, how is the reaction online and in our political sphere affecting you? President Trump has blamed the radical left for Kirk's killing. And today, Vice President J.D. Vance hosted Kirk's podcast, and he featured guests who were administration officials who vowed to go after what they called domestic terror networks on the left, who they say enabled the shooting. I want to hear your thoughts about the moment that we're in right now and the dangers that we're facing, and how the Charlie Kirk assassination, you believe, will change politics and change the way we talk to each other. I'd like to hear your thoughts at soundside@KUOW.org. The voicemail number is 206-221-3213. Again, soundside@KUOW.org or 206-221-3213. Thanks for listening to Soundside. And hey, this show is only possible because listeners support us. If you are able to give right now, check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.